Hey, what's up, guys? How's everyone doing today? And I have a special guest, Kiki from Swamp Rose. We're going to be discussing a few topics today: Idaho 4, Sebastian Rogers, and whatever comes to mind. Uh, Now, see, here's what I don't get. We have the whole alibi defense, and we have the Gonzalez family, who is irritated or irate at the prosecution because they keep kicking the alibi defense down the road, and they just want this entire case to be over with, and which I think we all do, but we also want justice for the victims. If it's not Brian, that's not technically justice. Because even Alyssa Jennings stated in the last uh, court hearing that they do have other suspects that they can look at. Why aren't they looking at those? And I'd like to get Kiki's take on that.
Well, thank you for having me again, Robert. It's a pleasure being with you. And this subject is just so fascinating. We could talk about a lot of aspects, but wanted to bring up one that I heard recently. I actually heard it on Rolo Mota's channel, which was one of the unknown DNAs or unknown suspects could possibly be one of the unknown DNAs. And did you know that that actual glove was gathered by a podcaster? Did you know that? Oh, you're muted.
No, I did not know that. Yeah, that's very interesting. I wonder which podcaster it was.
All right, so let me tell you, the podcaster was a detective by the name of Chris McDonough, and I didn't know anything about him, but he does have like a controversial past. I don't want to sit here in judgment and talk about it, but there were some accusations of coerced interrogation and some police work that was questionable. So for me, it's hard when a person like that finds evidence, just for the sake of everyone who's watching. It's awkward when that person finds it. I wish it had been somebody who doesn't have, the tumultuous past. But here we are, and that glove was found and pointed out by this podcaster, ex-detective. And personally, I think that it could be just completely thrown out of the mix. So anyway, sorry, I just wanted to get that piece out, Robert, if I'm blabbing a little.
No, see, now I do believe that the IGG will not make it into the actual trial because uh, there's going to be motions to suppress that's going to be coming forward probably here real soon before the trial starts. And I heard the trial date's actually March 3rd, 2025. I do believe that the IGG will not make it into trial, and neither will the knife sheath, because due to motions to suppress evidence, and just the whole thing uh, screams cover up because you have the prosecutor's office trying to seal everything up. Just like, what is Exhibit One? Is that the DNA? Is that the knife sheath? Is that the copycat K-bar knife that the prosecution ordered off of Amazon? Yeah, I'd like to know what Exhibit One is. Could it be Brian's car? You know, that's Exhibit One. We don't know because of this gag order.
I forgot we were even going to be talking about Exhibit 1. This is a fascinating subject, Robert. I know what Exhibit 3 is. Exhibit 3 is the shoe print, and I know what Exhibit 4 is. That's the diagram of the house. But I'm thinking back, so what could take precedence over those two massive pieces of evidence? You named one that I could think of, the sheath. What's the other one? a fingerprint. I don't know. What is it? What do you think? The DNA. So the sheath and the DNA are two different things. Maybe that's exhibit 1, exhibit 2. 3 is the footprint, 4 is the diagram, and so forth.
Yeah, that's what I think it possibly is the IgG because uh, they're stating in that new court doc that dropped, talking about a confidential source. Could the confidential source be the IgG? Could it be an informant that none of us know about? And personally, I don't think that Dylan or Bethany is going to testify in the trial because even though Dylan was the one that seen him that night, supposedly, opening the door for the third time, she saw the killer leave the house. I honestly don't think she's going to testify because Bethany has already stated that she wants nothing to do with the case. She wants nothing to do with the house, and she wants nothing to do with the trial. Which I think is kind of ironic, because she was in the house the night of the unalivings. So why would she not want anything to do with the case, the trial, or the house?
I can't really answer that question. I do not know, and I think that you bring up a question I ponder a lot, which is that informant that they talk about, is that the IgG, or is that something else? Is this like some crazy, like, enforcer like they talk about in Pavarotti, or is it, some woman who was breastfeeding her baby at 2 o'clock in the, on the balcony that we heard about? There was a few of them, you know what I mean? What is it? Who is this person? Was it the fifth? You know, I'm just speculating here, throwing out just ideas and things that people have brought out. What was that? Who was that informant? Or is it just as plain as we can tell? Is it informant is the way they categorize the information that comes from the FBI, because confidential informant is the way that they report on that information. I've also heard people say that, it could refer to possibly the cell phone signals being picked up on interceptors, like something like the Stingray. And in that case, you're required by the federal government to call that a confidential informant. But anyway, that's my thoughts so far.
Now, do you think that they could have used the Stingray the night of the unalivings? Because I have heard from somebody that there was like a rare meteor shower taking place that night, and the photography club, that's more likely why that they set the camera up behind the house that night, so they could film the meteor shower. And if that's the case, you could should have been a clear sky over Wawai Park. So Brian could have drove down to Wawai Park to watch the meteor shower, since it was a rare meteor shower. And even that night, I don't know how Brian could leave the house to do the unalivings at 2 something in the morning, when I've watched news footage on it. I've watched body cam on it. The sorority girl that ran over those two students there at WSU, and it actually took place right next to his apartment complex. And I watched I watched the video the other night that showed, I don't know if it was Brian's car or a car similar to his, sitting there in the parking lot, and you could see it was awash in police lights, and there was, police lights, first responder lights, and there was a lot more controlled scene than we've all thought. The police was like literally roving the area until 5 something in the morning. Uh, so how could somebody get out of the house at 2:42? I mean, he could have just went for a drive, like down to Wawai Park or surrounding area, or the him always wanting to help the police. He could have went outside because he saw the police lights. He could have went outside to find out what was going on. and the police could have told him uh, the description of the suspect vehicle because they hadn't found it yet. The police could have told him, "Hey, yeah, if you want to help, we need somebody to uh, cruise the area looking for this vehicle." And when he was coming back, he could have got a phone call to say, "Hey, come back, because we found the vehicle in question." Because you just because your phone isn't connected to the cell towers doesn't mean you did anything wrong. They normally don't connect to the cell towers unless you have a call, a text, or you're running an app.
I totally agree with you that it's not quite as Big Brother as we all think. However, some of those apps do like a background refresh pretty frequently, like Google and stuff. So it could be every couple minutes, you know. And also, when we talk about apps, your Wi-Fi network is an app as well, and that would be running almost a constant basis. So it's not saying that those apps necessarily connected, but we just don't know. And I think that that's where the real speculation is coming, because people are talking about this. Um, I mean, yeah, I have information on these things. I have a little. I don't know what you want me to bring up, because I don't know. Are you editing parts of this out, Robert?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So let me ask you something real quick. I have two things I could show right now. We're welcome to watch. I have it probably comes to somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes of Get a Clue talking about the metadata. And it freaks me out because he's literally telling the exact thing that just happened in court. And this is like 6 months ago. It's almost like he knew, like he's working for the defense. And then the other thing I have is I have something somebody sent me that it shows that the training, there is no like professional IGG. Like it's literally just like anyone can do it. You just learn how to do it. It's not like you go to school for it. But I have those two things. If you want to show either of them, I'm just offering them up as
Hey, we can always show them in the morning on the live.
oh yeah, I don't have any desire to show them. I'm just trying to bring something to the table.
Yeah, I understand. Um, Now, no. Here's the thing, though. Now, if Dylan claimed that she opened her door for the second time, and she heard the sound of Xana crying. Well, a paragraph later, she contradicts herself, or Brett Payne contradicts. She states uh, she went to open the door for the third time after she heard the sound of Kernodle crying. So which one is it? Did she open the door for the second time and hear the crying, or did she open the door for the third time and hear the crying? It's almost like either she contradicts herself or Brett Payne contradicts what she's saying in the PCA, because the third time, that's when she sees the quote unquote killer walking by her door. And if she did hear Kernodle crying, her being a supposed friend of Kernodle's, why didn't she go see what was going on after hearing the quote unquote, "It's okay, I'm going to help you"?
Gosh, so many unanswered questions, Robert. I mean, I think the first thing would be, did she, so if Dylan heard this, it's okay, I'm here to help, and the crying, I think my first question from Dylan would be, was it a foreign voice, or did you assume it was Ethan? Like, because if her boyfriend said it, like, oh, it's okay, I'm here to help, and then she started crying because she might have thought it was a relationship thing. But I don't know, Robert. And the other question I would have for her, other than did you recognize whose voice it was, I would want to know, like, the tone, like, how did she say it? There's someone here. There's someone here. There's someone here. What tone did she say it in? Because I mean, we all know because we live a life in text messages and comments that without that inflection of tone and understanding the way people say it, it's oftentimes misinterpreted, or somebody flippantly can read something and it means something else. So I don't know. It just opens up so many questions, just like you, when we hear this in the PCA. And the other thing is, it infers in that sequence of events that the room was where she was originally. So it kind of infers that's not where she ended up. And we hear over and over again in those early accounts, going back to WSU Mom Kim, even the early accounts that Dylan was there in Bethany's room that morning. So, anyway, those are my thoughts. You're muted.
I really don't trust Bethany or Dylan as far as I can throw them, which isn't very far, because um, Dylan comes from the drug lifestyle. Because apparently now she's a gamer who smokes weed all day, who's a social recluse, and uh, plays video games. Which uh, is a far cry from where she was as a sorority sister to Pi Beta Phi, and Bethany was Pi Beta Phi. So was Xana and Maddie. Now, and what Kaylee was Alpha Phi. So why wouldn't Kaylee go to the same sorority as her best friend, slash sister Maddie, uh, Pi Beta Phi, unless Pi Beta Phi rejected her, so she went to Alpha Phi. And we've heard the Blaker, and we've heard some of here the other cops saying it was an off-campus sorority house, and even the college has kind of distanced themselves during the murder, saying they're off-campus home, like they don't want no part of what happened that night, and they were so quick to tear that house down, and all because Scott Green is wanting to build some low income housing or apartments on that spot, which will more than likely turn into either sorority housing or fraternity housing, because he wants to get another fraternity in there. And he doesn't just want the Kappas or the Sigma Chi's or the Alpha Phi's or the Pi Beta Phi's. He wants to get one more fraternity in that college. I can't remember which fraternity it was, but he's turned this tragedy, and he's turned that house into a cash cow, which I think is kind of wrong to do.
So, I mean, I don't think you could have said it better. This was off campus housing. And so when we hear the premise of the argument of why we're tearing down the house, it just doesn't make sense to any of us. It's meant for the students to move on. Again, it's off campus housing. And so I don't think you could have said it better. I don't know one person following this case who says, yeah, it's fine. They tore down the house. Like, not even the experts. And here we are in hearings, and it's even getting brought up in some of the most important pieces of evidence. So I think anyone who's covered this case for a while, we never, ever want to take the opportunity to say how bizarre and out of place it seemed when they tore down that house. And we all kind of thought it might be devastating to justice, whatever side of the fence you happen to lean on. So just agreeing with your sentiments 100%, Robert.
Now, see, and to touch a little bit on the Sebastian Rogers case, I've heard that he was spotted in North Carolina. Um, how did he get there? Did his mom take him there? Or did his grandparents take him there? Um, and if that is true, then why isn't he back with Seth? Because Seth was supposed to be getting custody of him before he quote unquote disappeared. And I still believe that Katie and Chris had something to do with all this. What's your take on that?
I'm definitely the wrong person to ask because I just haven't followed it enough. And some of the things I've dove into with both parents when I wanted to see why people thought they were suspects, they seem to have been like very hard hitting. So I just haven't had time to really absorb what was going on. But this is what I will say is I just have a couple of questions for you. So I did also see the alerts that there was a sighting of Sebastian earlier today. Now I did not watch it, but I saw on one of the thumbnails a clear black and white that looked just like him. So are you saying, Robert, number one, this is a confirmed sighting? And number two, they've already determined whose custody this child is going to go back into? Just a couple questions to you.
I'm saying it's a potential sighting, and Seth has already stated in an interview that that Sebastian was supposed to come and live with him. He was supposed to be getting custody of Sebastian before Sebastian disappeared, and Seth was supposed to be getting custody of him around Christmas time, and he was supposed to live with him full time. And I think I've heard some stuff that Chris got mad because his daughter couldn't come over. This was when Sebastian was spending one Christmas with his dad Seth. That Chris had gotten mad because his daughter couldn't come over more because Sebastian was there, and Sebastian was autistic, and he desired a lot of attention, and Chris didn't like to put so much attention on him rather than his own daughter. So when Christmas time came, they sent Sebastian to his dad's house, and then Chris's daughter came over and spent Christmas time. It's so weird. Uh, it's like Chris went on to this YouTuber's podcast and was blasting the entire podcast, and he came off clearly as misogynistic. He didn't act so much the way towards the male on the podcast, but the other females on the podcast, he was talking down to them. He was blaming everything on them because of how he's being portrayed. Well, I've listened to that podcast, and came off very misogynistic, very overbearing when it comes to females, and I just don't like Chris Proudfoot after seeing that.
It's so hard. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen it, so I'm just making some sort of random judgment on it. I don't know. I know that some YouTubers that I trust have had storylines, tags, and thumbnails that infer that the father has really upset them. I don't know if they've inferred that he has something to do with it, but he has really upset with them. So that must be what they're referring to.
You talking about the stepfather or stepfather Chris or the father Seth?
Seth, I thought you just said the misogynistic comments on the YouTuber's
That
channel.
was from Chris Proudfoot.
That was from Chris Proudfoot?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, either way, I haven't seen it, so it's hard for me to comment on it. I got that echo, Robert. So either way, I haven't seen it, so it's a little bit hard for me to comment on it, but just hearing what you're hearing, number one, I know when I first started, I'm not making excuses for anyone, but I have to think, because I haven't heard it, so it's hard for me to form a full opinion on it, but I have to think about when I first started appearing behind the microphone and on a live stream. And like, I don't know, I definitely said, I didn't realize the degree of sensitivity in the things that maybe it was a flaw I had in real life in the things that I said. And it took me some time before I realized I have to speak in a softer tone to the audience, because you're not going to find, it's not an echo chamber of people with the same opinions. with that said, the other thing is if he's speaking misogynistically, again, I'm not making excuses, but we also have to, we're looking at people during their worst moments of life, you know, their pride and their joy, the thing that drives them in life is missing their child.
Everything else. And I hope they find him. I hope that he gets to come home. Uh, Whether it be to Seth or where, now I don't want to see him go back to the house he was in before, which was the Proudfoot home. You know, Seth is out there looking every day, spending his own money, paying, helping support the searchers. What's Chris and Amy doing? And Chris and Chris and Katie, I should say. What's Chris and Katie doing? They're out taking vacations. They're buying new motorcycles. Are they really invested? Bringing their son home, or do they just not care if he's found at all?
Robert, that's so powerful. I don't even know what to say to that. I didn't realize there was such a stark difference between the two parents. I didn't realize that their behavior was so different. I don't know. The one thing that did bother me is I felt really bad when I heard about the autistic aspect to his mental health and having a pet, especially one that becomes so personable, like a large snake. I mean, I'm not a big snake person, but I do know they have a very highly intelligent personality and they bond with their owners. And I felt really bad that as a young person with some mental challenges, he couldn't care for his pet well enough and they made him get rid of it. And I just feel like, and again, I'm not passing any judgment, but I just felt so bad because a child like that has trouble connecting. And when you give them a creature that they can connect with, like the amount of heartbreak when you take that creature away from them is real. And for the creature too, you know, animals just aren't disposable to me. And if the animal wasn't being cared for well, you know, I again, no judgment, but you often think, well, can't you just step in as a parent and help this kid who clearly has mental challenges care for the snake? So that really broke my heart when I heard that part. But I mean, it's not a reason to not let a kid go home. I don't know all the details, but anyway, those were a couple thoughts I had.
Yeah. Hey, Kiki, I want to thank you for doing this collab with me. Yeah, and I know we do a lot of lives together, but this is the first time